Good afternoon, everybody. Speaking to you here from the U.S. Department of the Interior here in Washington, D.C. My name is Tanya Joshua. I'm the Deputy Policy Director here in the Office of Insular Affairs at Interior. I'm here with my colleague, Christina Alfano, and Tim Popham, who's helping to make sure we have IT covered. We at the U.S. Department of the Interior have partnered very closely with the U.S. Census Bureau and are pleased to host a webinar series on the upcoming decennial census to be conducted on April 1, 2020. The partners in this effort at the Department of the Interior are the Office of Insular Affairs and the Office of Native Hawaiian Relations. The information that we share is for all individuals who will be counted during the census. However, this series does have a specific focus on Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islander communities across the United States and in the territories. Today's webinar is our fifth, and we are proud to focus today on the census in the 4 U.S. territories of American Samoa, Guam, the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Before I begin, I have the pleasure to relay greetings from the Director of the Office of Insular Affairs, Mr. Nick Kula, and I am also honored to share the following words from Doug Dominich, Assistant Secretary, Insular and International Affairs, and I quote, "I extend my wishes to all for a successful and informative series of webinars and trust that they will be useful. It is vitally important for all communities to be counted wherever you reside in the United States, including in the U.S. territories. The census will inform our work in the federal government and impact federal resources that are available to various communities. Please help spread the word, inform your friends and neighbors, and be counted in the upcoming census." End quote. I now have the pleasure to introduce our presenter. Jennifer Kim is the Assistant Division Chief for Content Translation for Puerto Rico and the island areas at the U.S. Census Bureau. Her work focuses on managing several operations within the 2020 census program: content and forms design, language services, translation services, and census operations in the U.S. territories, to include Puerto Rico, which I did not mention earlier only because they do not fall within the jurisdiction of our office at the Office of Insular Affairs here. In this role, Jennifer Kim has served as the chair of the Decennial Content Council, lead language expert for the Census Bureau's National Advisory Committee Language Working Group, and a Census Bureau representative on the International Census Forum Content Working Group. Jennifer holds a PhD in International Education Policy from the University of Maryland and an MS in International and Intercultural Education from the University of Southern California, and a BA in Linguistics and Spanish from the University of Michigan. Thank you, Jennifer, for joining us today. I'm going to pass the ball over to you, and I'll let you introduce the team that's with you.
Thank you so much. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening where you might be. I am sending you my greetings from American Samoa. I'm sorry I'm not able to be there with you in person for those of you who are in D.C. for this presentation. We have some exciting updates from all of our island areas, and I'm here to actually celebrate a milestone in American Samoa where they have completed or near completed on one of our operations, which is address listing, that will get us ready for our in-person interviews that start next month. So I apologize for not being there with you and send you our greetings from beautiful American Samoa. I also want to let you know that I have other staff members who are on the call with me. We have census advisors in all of our territories, 3 in the Pacific Islands and 2 in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And they're all on the call today, and they will be also introducing themselves to you and also giving an update of the operations that are happening in their specific offices. I will introduce them by name, and then you'll have an opportunity to hear from them later. So I'm here with Jason Kopp, who is a Census Advisor to American Samoa. And then on the phone, we have Colleen Joyce, who is the Census Advisor to CNMI, Tarina Long, who is a Census Advisor to Guam, and I have Daniel Doyle, who is the Census Advisor for St. Thomas and St. John District, and last but not least, Tomas Encarnacion, who is our Census Advisor for St. Croix. I also have Marisa Hotchkiss, who works with me at headquarters. She is my branch chief who oversees the content. So should we have more detailed questions about the actual content of the questionnaire that we're using for the island areas, Marisa will also be chiming in and giving us that information. Okay, well, without further ado, let's go ahead and go into the slides that we have for the island areas. Tanya, are you able to switch control for us to get to the next slide deck? Oh, here we are. Great. Thank you.
You've got the ball back.
Is it working now?
Passing.
Yes, here we go. Okay, so we just finished the introductory slide, and we're on slide 2, where it says why we conducted the decennial census in the island areas. So we start off by saying that the Constitution mandates that a census be taken every 10 years, and Title 13 of the U.S. Code authorizes the Department of Commerce, our secretary, who then delegates this authority to the director of the Census Bureau to undertake the decennial census. The geographic scope of the decennial census is specified in Title 13, which includes the 50 states, D.C., Puerto Rico, as well as our island area territories. And this is the actual wording from the mandate that gives us the authority to be able to conduct the census in all parts of the U.S. and the territories. This gives you a brief overview of the 2020 census operation. There are, in the 2020 census program, there are 35 different operations that make up the complete 2020 census program. And what you can see at the bottom left corner is that the island area censuses is one of the 35 major operations that comprise the 2020 census. Because of the scope of the work that is different from how we are conducting the stateside census, we have an entire operation of its own with its own resources and its staff to be able to conduct the census in the island areas. And my purpose today is to show you how similar and how different our operations are compared to stateside census operations. This is to give you a quick fact of the numbers that we have for the island areas. These are the numbers that we had from the 2010 census. And because we collect this information every 10 years, the most recent data that we have in the island areas is from the 2010 census. And as you can see in the top row, is that the total population combined for all 4 territories in 2010 was a little over 375,000 people, with about a little bit over 138,000 different housing units. And then you'll see that this is all broken down by each of the territory. And you can see that in terms of the population size, you see American Samoa and CNMI fairly comparable, with more housing structures that you see for CNMI. And then Guam and U.S. Virgin Islands having a larger population density that you see there. One thing that I do want to note about the U.S. Virgin Islands is because of the geographic disbursement of the islands of St. Thomas and St. Croix, we have split this work into 2 different districts. So one district that oversees St. Thomas and St. John, and then a second district that oversees St. Croix. So while we have census offices, one each in American Samoa, one in CNMI, one in Guam, we have 2 different offices for those 2 districts. So in total, we have 5 island area census offices that are operating right now for the 2020 census with 5 census advisors. All right, so for the island area censuses, the Census Bureau partners with the island area local governments to conduct the censuses of American Samoa, CNMI, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And this is a partnership that we established through a contract agreement between the Census Bureau and the governor of each island area. What this means is for stateside operations in Puerto Rico and D.C., the Census Bureau has the boots on the ground and conducts the census with our staffing. But what we do with the island areas is we give this authority to the local governments for them to do the hiring and use the local staff in order to conduct the census. And in order to do this, we do this through a contractual agreement. So with this agreement, the island area governments are responsible for conducting the actual data collection activities under the guidance of the census advisors that we deploy. And in return, the Census Bureau is responsible for providing the funds necessary to conduct the census, the data collection methodology, all of our data collection instruments and materials, which includes questionnaires and address registers, as well as all of the IT infrastructure and our on-site census advisors for oversight. This contract agreement goes on for about 1.5 years, in which our census advisors for the field data collection part, from the preparation until closeout, are there on island for 1 year. They were all deployed last September, and they have reached the halfway mark of their deployment already and are looking at their last 6 months on island for the operation. In order to conduct this, we have an agreement, like I said, with the governor of each island area, in which the governor appoints a lead agency to carry out this work on his or her behalf. For American Samoa, we have, the governor has designated the Department of Commerce to conduct this work. For CNMI as well, that is the Commerce Department as well. For Guam, we have the Bureau of Statistics and Plans that has been designated by the governor. And in the U.S. Virgin Islands, the governor has designated the University of Virgin Islands to conduct this work. All of our contracts were signed in December of 2018, and we went out to each of the sites, and we held kickoff meetings on site in January of 2019. That was last year. Here is a fun picture of our 5 island area offices, as well as our island area census advisors. So let me take you to the top right corner.
Jennifer?
Yes.
I think that somehow we have lost you as the presenter. I'm trying to kick it back to you, but it's not working. Can anybody see?
We're still seeing island area censuses.
Okay, we're still seeing the island area censuses, and I'm trying to kick the control back to you, but it's not working. So I'm going to go ahead and pick it up from slide 4 for you.
Got it.
You need to share.
Tanya, our screen shows that we're on slide 6.
On slide 6?
Yeah, we're on slide 3.
Okay, hang on. Yeah, we're definitely not on the same slide. Let me just call to me, and I will change the.
There we
Did
go. Okay,
you already passed this slide? We didn't see this slide. Can you just quickly? We heard about it, but we didn't see it.
Tanya, which slide are you on? We still see slide 6 from our screen.
Yeah,
we're on quick facts.
we're on slide 4. It never moved past 3 for us. At some point, Jason's computer lost his controls, and we can't pass it back to you.
So done.
Oh dear.
Okay, so I have the backup slides with me, so we can do it from here. Are we all on slide 4 now then?
Yes.
I'm actually the one sharing slide 4 now to everyone.
Okay, great. So I'll just pick it up right back at slide 4. Slide 4 shows our data from 2010 census, giving you an overview of the population count and the housing count for our island areas. And as you can see, in 2010, we had a little over 375,000 people that were counted for the 2010 census, and a little over 138,000 housing units that were counted. And then for the rest of the table, you'll see the breakdown of each territory in terms of the population size and their housing units. So this will become a baseline for us as we collect the 2020 numbers to see how the population and the housing numbers have changed in the last 10 years. And you can see that the population size is fairly comparable for American Samoa and CNMI, and then you'll see a higher population density for Guam and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Let's go on to the next slide, slide 5. Slide 5 shows you that The way that we do our work with the island areas government is that we have a partnership that is established through a contract agreement through the Census Bureau and the governor of each island area, in which through this contract agreement, the island area governments are responsible for conducting the actual data collection activities for the census, while the Census Bureau is responsible for providing the funds and the resources, as well as our on-site census advisors to give oversight for that entire year of field data collection. That includes not just the field data collection activity in itself, but the preparation and the closeout. So for each of the island areas, the governor has the authority to name a local government agency or an entity to carry out the data collection activities on behalf of the governor. So to give you another rundown of who these folks are, for American Samoa, it is the Department of Commerce that has been designated by the governor to carry out this work. So they are our partner agency. As well as for CNMI, Department of Commerce is also our partner agency. For Guam, it is the Bureau of Statistics and Plans that is our partner agency. And then in the Virgin Islands, we have the University of Virgin Islands that has been designated by the governor to carry out this work. Our contracts are officially signed in December 2018, and with the official kickoff that began January of 2019, a little bit over a year ago. Going on to slide 6, we wanted to show you some pictures of what our census offices look like in all of our territories. So taking you to the top right corner, you see that beautiful blue sign. That is our sign for the St. Thomas office. That serves St. Thomas and St. John districts in the U.S. Virgin Islands. When you look right below that, you'll see a white sign with an orange structure. That is our office for St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Right next to that one, you'll see the sign for 2020 Census of CNMI. That is our CNMI office. And to the right of that, you'll see our census, our Guam office. And then to the right, top right corner is American Samoa Census Office, and it is exactly where I am right now in that building giving this presentation. In the top middle, you'll see 5 individuals who are our census advisors. From left, we have Dan Doyle, who is our census advisor for USVI St. Thomas, St. John District. To the right is Jason Kopp, who is actually sitting in this office with me. He is our American Samoa advisor. In the middle is Torina Long, who is our Guam advisor. And then next is Tomas Encarnacion, who is our St. Croix USVI census advisor. And then to the right is Colleen Joyce, who is our CNMI census advisor. When you look at slide 7, I want to talk to you about the types of data that will be collected in the island areas. Because we do not have any other surveys that happen within the intercensal years, the years between the censuses every 10 years, we really have one-time shot at collecting data for the island areas. For those of you who may be familiar with the different surveys that are taken on stateside in Puerto Rico, we have what we call the American Community Survey that is run annually on a sample basis. In addition to the decennial census that happens every 10 years, there is a rolling survey that asks for detailed information of the population and the households. What we are doing for the island areas is that we are leveraging that same long form, the longer questionnaire that we use for the American Community Survey, to conduct the census in the island areas. So while for those of you who are residing on stateside, DC, Puerto Rico, will experience the 2020 census in a short form where there will be a shorter amount of questions that are asked. For those who are residing in the island areas will be asked a longer form to give us the detailed socioeconomic and housing characteristics of the island areas. In order to create this questionnaire, we used the American Communities questionnaire as our baseline. And then throughout the years, we worked closely with our local island area government to finalize the content of the questions to provide the maximum utility and minimum individual burden. In 2020, for the 2020 census subjects, we are required, the 3 years prior to the actual census, we are required to submit the subjects of the questions that we will be asking on the census to Congress. And then 2 years prior to that, we are mandated to submit the actual questions that will be used for the census. So in March 2017, we were able to submit to Congress the subjects and our questions in March of 2018 for the 2020 census, not just for stateside DC and Puerto Rico, but also for our territories. And these correspondences were also sent to our congressional delegates of our territories, American Samoa, CNMI, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Going on to slide 8, this tells you the types of data that are collected. What you see is the majority of the subjects are what we use for the American Community Survey. However, there are a few exceptions in working with our local government in which we have added a few more subjects that will be relevant and that meets the data needs of our island areas. So if you see all of those, let me just walk you through it. So if you look at the column, the first column, those are 2020 subjects. These are the subjects that are asked on our 2020 census questionnaire for stateside. And then the next 3 columns that you see are the additional subjects that we'll be asking of the island areas that will give us a lot more detailed data points for us. So we will be asking social, economic, and housing questions, and you see for each of those columns, these are the types of questions that we will be asking. What you also see is that the cells that are highlighted in green are the ones that are different from the American Community Survey. So everything else that you see in these cells that are not shaded pretty much leverage and mimic the American Community Survey questionnaire. The green ones are the ones that have been added or been modified. So for example, if you look at the rightmost column under housing subjects, the third entry where you see home heating fuel, that is a question that we do ask on the American Community Survey for stateside. What we have heard from our counterparts is that having data on the source of home heating fuel is not relevant for the island area, so that is a subject that we deleted from the questionnaire. However, we got the request to add these 4 that you see, parents' place of birth, reason for migration, sewage disposal, and source of water that have been added to accommodate the data needs for the island areas. Let's go on to the next slide, slide 9, to give you where we are in terms of our activities. These are our key activities of the island area censuses. As I discussed earlier, we deployed our census advisors in September of last year, and they had been working feverishly the moment they got there to continue the preparation work to be able to officially open our census offices. I'm very happy to report that in October of last year, we were able to meet this milestone. And in between the 2nd and the 24th of October, we were able to officially open all of our 5 offices and open it and release that information to the public and to hold our opening ceremonies with the offices of the governor as well as our liaison agencies. Since then, we have been feverishly hiring staff who will be part of our office operations as well as our field operations. And we have been conducting staff training. Now, there are 2 components for our data collection activity that you see where it says conduct address listing and conduct housing unit enumeration, which are pretty much our key milestones. For address listing, what we do is we put boots on the ground and we walk all parts of the island for everyone to list all the housing units where people may be living. This is what is currently happening in the Pacific Islands and what is about to happen in the Virgin Islands. And this is the primary reason that I am here in American Samoa right now, as they are wrapping up their work with the address listing. And I had an opportunity yesterday when it wasn't raining and windy yesterday to actually drive around the island and look at unique housing structures and the challenges that our census takers had in listing all of these addresses. And I have to say it was very eye-opening of the different unique situations that we encountered here, which would be same with all of our other territories. So we were very impressed and proud of our census takers who were able to basically walk all streets and all paths throughout all of our islands to be able to list all the places where people may be living. Once that part is done, we take that as our list and send people out, and we actually do what we call enumeration, which is the actual census interview. We will be going door to door with our census takers and doing in-person interviews of all households and all those who reside on islands. This is what's happening right now with the address listing and going into the enumeration. We are anticipating that this field work will go on until the end of May. And with that, we will also be conducting special enumeration. These are for people who are living in group facilities, university housing, correctional facilities, nursing homes, and so forth, as well as conducting our enumeration of the homeless population. So that is also happening in conjunction with what's happening with our address listing and housing unit enumeration. As we do our enumeration, we will also be doing field follow-up and some of our re-interviews for our data quality. And then starting this summer, we will start our closeout activities. Our goal right now is to be able to conduct all of our field work and be able to capture everything into our questionnaires and ship all of that back to Census Bureau's National Processing Center by the end of July. Once that happens, we will start closing down our offices here, and by the end of September, we will be officially closing all of our offices.
Jennifer, this is Tanya. Can I ask a quick question while we're on this slide?
Absolutely. Yes.
So what is your actual start date in the territories for counting? It looks like it's not April 1, as it is in the main census.
Yeah. So April 1 is what we call the census date, our reference date. So that is a date that we use for entire census operations stateside and in the territories. And when we take our population count, we ask everyone as of April 1st. So where were you living as of April 1st? That becomes our reference point. I think that's why a lot of folks may think that census actually happens on April 1st, but really it happens around that date. But we use that date as our reference point in terms of getting our population count.
Thank you. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So with this here, I'm going to pause for a moment, and I'm going to be asking each of our island area census advisors to give us a brief update on how the work is going in each of their territories. So for all my staff, I will be going in alphabetical order. So I will start with Jason Cobb, who is with American Samoa. So Jason, please tell us about a brief overview of the work that you're doing here, as well as for those who may be familiar with American Samoa, where our office is located, and any other information that you can give. So Jason.
Yep, thank you so much, Jenny. So we're very happy to report that here in American Samoa, as of yesterday evening, we are 100% done with address listing field work. We're finishing some of our quality checks this week, but we've finished all the work in the field that we're doing to identify all of the structures where people are living in American Samoa. And this includes all of the islands of American Samoa, so Tutuila, Onu'u, and the Manua Islands. So we're very happy about that. It was a lot of work to get up to that point. We, as Jenny was showing on the slide 9 that has all the different dates when we're doing activities, we have completed all of those items in there, hiring all of our staff, conducting all the training so that they could start on time in February for address listing, and we're very excited that we've now completed that. We're also excited because we are preparing now in the next week so that we can start housing enumeration on March 2nd as scheduled as well. So everything is going very well in terms of our preparation in American Samoa. In addition to that, we've been doing a lot of outreach work with our partnership specialists. We've been making sure that we're meeting with Samoan Affairs, all of the Pulinu'u, which are the mayors of each of the villages in American Samoa, to make sure that the public has good information about what to expect with the census and how they'll be able to participate, so we can make sure we have complete and accurate data here in American Samoa. And actually, as of yesterday, Jenny joined us while she was on island in a press conference. We're trying to prepare the public for operations for enumeration and all the in-person interviews we'll be doing with every household here starting in March. So we're really excited about that. For anyone who wants to know about our location, we're in Whangatongo. We are in the Illuminati building on the 2nd floor, which is right above the post office. So anyone familiar with the area will know where that's at. And our phone number, in case anyone ever needs to call us, is, of course, area code and 644-2020. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jason. We'll now go on to CNMI. Colleen Joyce will give us an overview of the CNMI census.
Yes, thank you. My name is Colleen Joyce. So I have actually a very similar update to Jason. We started around the same time, and we're kind of keeping pace with each other here. So we are not quite done. I can't say 100% done in address listing, but we are well into the upper 90% done. We are also doing QC, which is why that number is a little fluid at this point, because occasionally we're running into something that needs to be kicked back out to the field for address listing. But we will be done completely with all the QC by probably middle of next week, which puts us on pace to start our enumeration on time in the first week of March. We also have been spending a lot of our time on outreach efforts. We have been doing a ton of radio ads. We're running those ads in 8 different languages, just keeping people informed that we're out on the streets, that they're going to see us writing stuff down about their houses, so don't be alarmed. We're doing a number of print ads in local magazines and newspapers. We just filmed a talk show. It hasn't run yet, but we taped a talk show the other night. And we also have a number of videos running on the local news stations. We're going to run them in the local movie theater and on social media. We're also appearing at a number of outreach events, festivals, et cetera, handing out, bags and other promotional items at those events. In terms of our office location, if you're familiar with the area, we are on Beach Road in Chalanlalau Village. If you're really familiar, for the locals, we always say it's the former mayor's office on the 3rd floor. And we can be reached at 670-685-2020 is our phone number.
Thank you, Colleen. Now we'll go on to Tarina Long, who is the Guam Census Advisor.
Thank you, Jenny. Half a day, everyone. So we were able to start our address listing on time on February 3rd, which for us was the Super Bowl as well. So we had an ad campaign around that and preparing the villages to see our enumerators out in the villages conducting the address listing. We will be completely finished QC and all of our listing by Wednesday, February 26th, next Wednesday. And we are on time to start enumeration the following Monday on March 2nd. We have completed all of our peak hiring and peak training, and we are excited to begin the enumeration phase. We have been working with our partners, with the mayors. We met with the village council last week. We have joined all of our local chats, our neighborhood chats for the mayors and their villages. We have an aggressive marketing campaign. We have a website, which is 2020census.guam.com, where we provide information to the neighborhood about what to expect and upcoming milestones. We also have regularly scheduled radio broadcasts. We've got regularly scheduled TV appearances, as well as a monthly column in the PDN, Post Daily News. We're located at Century Plaza, which for those of you who are familiar with the area is the old Docomo building, and we occupy the entire 2nd level. And we're just pretty excited to get going, and everything is going really well for us here.
Great, thanks, Terry. Let's go on to the U.S. Virgin Islands. Let's start with St. Croix District Office, Tomas Encarnacion.
Hi, thank you, Jenny. Hi, I am Tomas Encarnacion. I'm the Census Advisor here on St. Croix. Similar to my counterpart, Jason, Colleen, and Terry, here we are working on staffing the Census office. For us here, we have a goal of about 50 staff in the office and another 280 plus field staff. We have hired around 208 of those, and we have cleared around 135 and trained 135. We have a couple of test sessions scheduled for next week, where we will, where we are expecting another 100 applicants or so. So by the end of the month, we should have our full staff on board and fully trained. Few challenges that we are experiencing here on St. Croix is that we are, it's a little hard for us to actually find qualified applicants because we are competing with the oil refinery in terms of salary. So most people are actually lining up to work for the oil refinery. Another challenge is also the lack of public transportation here on St. Croix, where not all the applicants have vehicles, and that presents a challenge for us because we need people that are able to move around. We are actually a little different than our Pacific counterparts in terms of the operation itself. We are doing a list and enumerate simultaneously here. We will be conducting our listing operation starting on March 1st, and the enumeration will be simultaneously conducted as well. The time frame is the same for us here, the March 1st through June 30th, and with follow-up between June 30th and July 1st, and our materials are to be shipped to the mainland by not later than the end of July. We are similar to my counterparts. We are working with trusted voices here. We are engaging with civil societies and religious organizations on the island, and we are coordinating with organizations that work directly with hard-to-count populations, such as immigrant communities, as well as the homeless population, and the children. And as a matter of fact, we actually received a draft of a very beautiful book that was published by the Community Foundation here on the Virgin Islands. The book is called We Count. It's called We Count, and it's a book intended for children and their parents to educate children and their parents on the importance of participating on the census. We are also working with the public officials here. We're working with the governor's office as well as Ms. Plaskett's office. We received a PSA from Ms. Plaskett, and we are currently working with the governor's office to record another PSA on behalf of the 2020 census here. And his office is also going to publish a press release with a call for participation. Another person that has been involved is the Attorney General office. She is ready to publish a press release soon after we started our collection operation that will educate the public on the importance of participating, but also to look out for imposters and scammers. So here, we're working directly with the University of the Virgin Islands, who is responsible for the hiring and the actual data collection operation. And Dan and I are working very closely to ensure that there is a synchronization between the two offices. So it's practically seamless. If you come here, you will not see much difference between how we are running the operation because the two of us work as one. So pretty much that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Tomas. Last but not the least, Dan Doyle is our advisor to St. Thomas St. John District and USVI. Dan?
Thank you, Jenny. Good evening. Good morning, everyone. So right now, Tomas and myself, our operation looks pretty similar. We are preparing to make assignments for address listing and enumerating at the same time. We are in a crunch time right now training all of our field staff. Currently, we are fully operational in the office and are fully staffed, and we're about 75% hired in terms of our field staff. Tomas mentioned the outreach. The outreach for the Virgin Islands is the same for St. Thomas and St. Croix, and we have partnership specialists that work together to ensure that we have a unified front in the messaging for the Virgin Islands. I will also just say that if you're familiar with the St. Thomas area, we are located directly across the street from the airport at the Cyril King Airport. And to reach either St. Thomas, St. John, or St. Croix, you can call 340-718-2020 and press 1, 2, or 3 for which office you'd like to get. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan, and thank you all to our census advisors. So that brings us to our wrap-up of our overview of our census operations in the island area. I know this was a lot of information that we have given you, so we would like to open up a time if anyone has questions, Tanya, but that brings us to our part of our presentation today.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, to you and the entire team calling in from all of the U.S. territories. We're so happy to hear from everyone. Is there anybody on the line who would like to pose a question? While we wait for somebody who might want to pose a question, I have a question for you, and I want to take you back to slide number 8. Can you see it, Jennifer? Slide 8?
Yes, we're on it.
My question was, you mentioned that the census stateside, is it, the questions on the census stateside, is it in, those are the questions in the first column only?
That's right. So that's what we call the short form that will be asked of the stateside census, including Puerto Rico, where they will be asked this short form. And then the remainder of the questions are asked on the American Community Survey, which is on a rolling basis on an annual.
Okay, wonderful. And it's those green ones that are highlighted that are specific only to the territories.
Correct. Those are the 4 subjects that we added to the American Community Survey to accommodate it for that need. That's correct.
Wonderful. The other question I have is, I thought that there was a citizenship question there was a citizenship question. Is there not?
There will be no citizenship question on any of the 2020 census questionnaires.
Okay, good. Okay. Another question I have is, I wondered, given all of there are many people who are living in the mainland from the U.S. territories, is there any sort of collaboration or some of the experience that you've acquired being in the territories and working in the territories on making sure that folks from the territories in the mainland are counted? Or do those areas not merge at all in your world?
Yeah, those are 2 very different operations. So there is an entire operation stateside that counts everyone who resides on stateside, and then those who are in the territory. So those are 2 very separate operations, but people are counted in the place of their usual home. So if their usual home is in the territory, then they get counted in the territory census, and if their usual home is on stateside, then they will be counted in that operation.
All right, thank you very much. I am not seeing any indication that there are questions. I think your presentation was done very well. Oops, I do have somebody on the line who would like to ask the question. Please go ahead.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you. Please ask your question.
Hi, I had a quick question about the veterans that are counted in the census. So we do have some veterans that are living on the mainland because they're having difficulty receiving care in the Virgin Islands. Is there some kind of stipulation that accounts for those veterans that are living away but are from the Virgin Islands? They're just living away for the purposes of receiving care. So it brings me back to the mainland operation versus the territory operation. And so at the end of the day, we don't really, At the end of the day, we don't really get the full funding because the veterans that do reside in the Virgin Islands are not counted because they're not there at the time. They're receiving care elsewhere. And so it kind of messes up our veteran numbers.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question.
Is there any operation to account?
Yeah, so once again, we count people where they live most of the time, and so we ask them to make that determination. In that year, if they're living in the Virgin Islands most of the time, then they get counted in the Virgin Islands. if they're living on stateside, most of the time they will get counted there. So the Census Bureau cannot make that determination for that individual. They would determine where they live most of the time and be counted.
Okay, all right, thank you so much.
I just wanted to let you know, to the caller who just asked the question also, that in 2 weeks, on Thursday, March 5, starting at 3 p.m. Eastern, we will be talking about the census and the military. So we can pose that question as well at that time.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Dara Monifa, over on St. Thomas. I met with Dr. Mills today, and also have been speaking with Patrice Johnson, just because we've been, for the VI source, been trying to get some clarification on the change between the 2010 and the 2020 instrument regarding people's abilities to be more specific with their place of origin, ethnic group, whatever it might be. Is there any clarification on that anyone can share? I did see the difference visually, and the understanding was that we have more of an ability to be specific in the 2020 instrument than has been in the 2010 instrument. Like, I know words like Negro are no longer on the document anymore. But in terms of people being able to identify that they are from the Virgin Islands, from Jamaica, from Haiti, wherever that might be, is that something that's actually new, or can anyone specify to what actually is the thing that's new?
Sure. So you're asking about how we have refined our question wording that has been enhanced from 2010 into 2020. Is that what you're asking?
Correct, yeah. And I see the difference visibly on the page, but just to get some clarification.
Yeah. Sure, yeah. So the Census Bureau over the decade has done extensive research on how to enhance the way that we ask these questions. And fortunately for us, we have Marisa Hotchkiss, who's my branch chief over the content informed design, who actually designed the questionnaire for the entire 2020 census operation. Marisa, if you want to jump in and give some examples of how we have enhanced the question wording for 2020?
Okay. Because we noticed that there's obviously
Marisa,
a change.
you might be on mute. Yeah, Marisa Hotchkiss, can you jump in? You might be on mute.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Marisa.
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. Just to kind of add a little more background for everyone else on the call, since you have seen the race question, I'm sure you're aware that the question that will be on the questionnaires in 2020 has both checkboxes and write-in fields. So the idea being that people can select one or more boxes that correspond with how they identify, and they also have an opportunity to print detailed origins in the write-in fields below the categories. So what's different is some of the examples that we provide as possible example origins that someone might provide have been updated, and then some of the terms for the categories have been updated as well. But overall, you have more of an opportunity to print a detailed origin that you identify with.
Thank you very much, Marisa. This is Tanya from Interior again. I wanted to let our caller know that we did have a webinar last week on that very question with Rachel Marks and Paul Jacobs. And you're looking right now at our website. I will be in the next couple of days making sure that that website is updated. You will be able to see the PowerPoint presentation that was presented on that very subject. And you can also email me for a copy of a recording of the presentation and the discussion from last week, if that would also be helpful to you.
Definitely, thank you. I'll get your email. Can you send it, or how are you going to share that?
Can you see the website up here? Can you just grab that URL and, or my email is actually also at the bottom of that website page. It's Tanya_, Tanya, Joshua, Joshua, @ios.doi.gov. And this is the presentation that we had with, so yes. You can also reach out to anybody else who's on, we have all of our census contacts on the website as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
I did see another question. Herb, do you have a question? Would you like to let us know? Okay, the question is, are the 2020 questionnaires available for viewing or accessible online?
Okay, so the question was, how accessible will the questionnaire be? For the island area censuses, this is going to be 100% enumeration that will be done by interviewer. So we will be visiting each of the households, and each of the enumerators will be asking the question through an interview format. So there will not be an option where they go online and fill it out on their own. They will actually be contacted by a census taker who will be interviewing them in person.
Okay, and just in case the question is more broad, can you go online right now and see a sample census questionnaire for the mainland for the mainland?
So when we went to, in order to have our questionnaires finalized, we have to get clearance from the Office of Management and Budget. So when we were getting the OMB clearance, we posted all of our sample questionnaires on the site. That should still be up on the OMB website.
Okay, I will track that down and provide a link to that website for our listeners and those who are interested. So to my participant who asked that question, just FYI, maybe check in the next couple of days and we'll get that posted online for you. Any other questions? Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yes.
Oh, that was it from our side. I didn't have anything else to add.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So, anyway, back to next joint. Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying I did have one more question. I know that there are differences between the instruments and some methodology used on the U.S. continental versus what is used in the Virgin Islands. Is there anywhere that there's like a summary of the differences and maybe justifications for the differences, or at least a summary of the differences?
Sure. On the census website, what we release is the operational plan for the 2020 census. I can work with Tanya to send out that link to all of you that goes through all of our operations for 2020 census, and there is a
I'm not
section
sure if someone's
that
speaking,
talks about the island
so
area.
I'm not hearing, so you may be on mute if you are speaking.
Can everyone hear me right now?
Yes.
Okay. So we have the 2020 census operational plan that is available online. Tanya, I can work with you to send that link out to you. You can share with everyone who's on this call. And within the operational plan, it talks about the different operations of the 2020 census and the differences and the similarities that we are talking about when it comes to the island area. So I will send that link out to you for the operational plan.
Thank you so much.
That sounds wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Please join us in 2 weeks. We will be starting at 3 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, March 5, to talk about the military and the census. You may be aware that there are many islanders and from the Pacific as well as the Caribbean who participate in the military, who are in the military in the U.S. Armed Forces, and we wanted to be sure to address those questions as well. Thank you so much, Jennifer, to you and the entire team who's out in all of the territories. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to our next webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, I missed it.
Thank you.